Well, good evening. Hello. My name's Ben, and welcome to Behind the Screens, my occasional look at the history and mechanics and games that make up the tabletop RPG world and its associated brethren. Thank you, Luke. Much appreciated. Many thanks for joining me on this, which is the 10th of these that I've done. And just to get us started, the usual housekeeping stuff. We're the boys from the Baltic Star. And we do Twitch streams of narrative gaming, mostly tabletop RPGs and adventure video games, typically streaming 4 times a week. Why 4 times a week? No idea. Not really. It's what we've got into the habit of doing. Stick around to the very end and I'll put up a full schedule card for the upcoming streams. But before I move on, let me say that tomorrow night we'll be streaming our main Traveller campaign at this time, and Saturday night we won't be streaming anything at all. Sorry, spoiler alert, but you get the point. Actually, we probably will be streaming something on Saturday, but more later. We can be followed at Boys Baltic on Twitter. Not that you have to follow us, but you do have my permission. Would it help if I begged? Anyway, that's where we post updates about all our activities, so it's the best place to stay up to date. So what do I have planned for this, hopefully, interesting episode? Well, after getting some very nice comments about the editorial thing I did last week, I'm going to spend a few moments talking about something else from a purely emotional perspective, because you were very kind, and your kindness must be punished, obviously. We finally come to the end of the RPG Adventures from Scratch series with part number 7, believe it or not. It doesn't mark the end of the narrative necessarily, but it's a good point to wind this one up and start a new series for next time, covering something completely different and probably described a bit more briskly. I'm going to look at another piece of old RPG lore, this time taking a dive into the Maelstrom. And then I'll take a quick look at the tricks behind adaptation of a generic system to suit a narrative universe. Okay, now that was just a wildly pompous way to say that. I mean, how do you take a universe you love, any universe, and then make it work with the rules you use and like? More accurately, I'll be talking about the history of generic systems this time, so we can do a bit of actual adaptation next time. All in all, I hope we're going to have a little bit of fun, and if not, remember to pretend you did. It's the polite thing to do. I just thought I'd say a few words about one of the more impressive recent phenomena in RPGs. In case there's anyone who doesn't know what on earth I'm talking about, here's a very quick, very shallow explanation of the background. Oh, hey there. How are you doing, sir? Critical Role is a streamed tabletop RPG game. It's currently in its 3rd campaign, and it's been streaming for about 7 years now. In fact, that's the reason I'm talking about them tonight. It is their 7th anniversary stream this evening. They began their online adventures with their first campaign already underway, and streaming the remainder of that, and then a full campaign, and now they're on the beginning of campaign 3. They play 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, and the setting is one that was created by the DM, Matt Mercer, encompassing the world of Exandria. Each campaign has been set a few decades apart and on a different continent. Everyone at the table, including the DM, are friends and professional voice actors. This matters because they do a wonderful set of accents to bring their characters to life and have experience delivering emotion in their voices without having props or costumes to make it easier for them. I can tell you that what they do isn't easy for people like myself, and they make it look kind of effortless. As a group, they are very charismatic, extraordinarily attractive, and they play with an array of physical maps, miniatures and technical setups that mere mortals couldn't even begin to imagine having in their games. And some people find this intimidating. There are examples all over the web of people trying to run a game and discovering that a player at their table is expecting the game to be just like Critical Role. There are other examples of people being unwilling to run a game for fear that they'll be compared to Matt Mercer. Presumably unfavourably compared. This situation has garnered a name, the Matt Mercer effect. What we do here at Boys from the Baltic Star is essentially the same thing that Critical Role does. I mean, sure, we use Traveller rules instead of D&D, use a digital map rather than physical models, and none of us is anywhere near as qualified to count ourselves as professionals in any kind of performance. But other than those trivial, irrelevant differences, we're basically the same. Which raises the obvious question: why aren't we intimidated by the thought of the comparison? Because every single RPG group I've ever been associated with has played what amounts to a different game. The style of play, the way the rules unfold, the narrative, the extent to which the dice or the decisions principally affect the outcomes. A good bookshop has thousands of books in it, very few of them written by Shakespeare. But imagine if all those other writers had decided they couldn't play in the same league as the Swan of Avon, and never put pen to paper. If Critical Role is an exceptional example of a very good RPG, which it is, that doesn't mean there's nothing wrong with other people coming to play their own games as well. I think the thought that someone might be too intimidated to run a game in a universe that also contains Critical Role would truly sadden the team themselves. I'd also suggest that trying to emulate their style is probably not a great idea. After all, they're not trying to copy yours. Right now, on Amazon Prime, for those with access to the service, you can watch a series called The Legend of Vox Machina, an animated and heavily edited retelling of parts of their first campaign. Now, this is not by any stretch of the imagination the same as playing an RPG, but I've been watching it, and it's a hell of a lot of fun, especially if you've seen the characters portrayed at the gaming table. The series was backed as a sort of crowd-funded extension of the Critical Role community, a community so large and passionate that it was able to raise an eye-watering sum of money just to see, played out before their eyes, some stories that they'd mostly already had plenty of opportunity to see played at the time of their collective creation at the table. I suspect and hope Critical Role will continue to be influential in the community, and it can be entirely a positive influence, but that's up to us. We get to choose how we react to its existence and its success. We get to decide if it's simply some fun, or some inspiration, or some terrible millstone draped around our necks. I hugely enjoy the Critical Role content, but I really don't see how it should impact the stories we tell, or anyone else tells for that matter. Because I think that's better for us, better for the variety of games out there, and even better for Critical Role. After all, their style is their own, their talents are their own, and our style and talent is our own as well. I mean, imagine how intimidating it would be for Matt Mercer if he thought I was thinking of him as a mentor and that was affecting my own games. The responsibility might crush him. We'd have to call this terrible outcome the Ben Slythe effect. And nobody wants that.